Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating new theory about how our thoughts might actually become things. And it goes way beyond just believing. It gets into physics and the idea of pathways.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a question that I think anyone interested in manifestation has wrestled with. If our thoughts really do create our reality, why can't we just, conjure up a coffee right here, right now? What's the deal with that?
So you've got this powerful belief on one side, what you think you can create. But then you have cold, hard reality on the other side. You're sitting there thinking, coffee, 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 and, well, your cup is still empty. So what are we missing here? What's the piece of the puzzle that's just not clicking into place?
Well, that's exactly where this new idea, the theory of pathways, comes into play. It's a really cool framework that offers an answer by mixing some modern ideas from quantum physics with some pretty ancient philosophical concepts. Okay, so here's the absolute core of the theory, the most crucial part. It's not just about how strongly you believe in something. The theory says that for a thought to become a real thing, there has to be at least one clear, open road for it to travel down, a pathway from the world of ideas into our physical world.
And that brings us right back to our coffee problem. The reason it doesn't just pop into existence is because, according to this theory, every single direct, instantaneous path is blocked. It's blocked by the fundamental laws of our universe, little things like the conservation of mass. You just can't create something out of nothing. But here's the thing, an unblocked pathway does exist. It just happens to be the one that plays by the rules of physics. It involves having the idea, then getting up, walking to the kitchen, and actually making the coffee. The thought is the spark, for sure, but the pathway is how it actually gets done. So to understand the mechanism behind this, the theory uses a really powerful analogy.
To really get what's going on under the hood here, the theory asks us to think about consciousness in a new way, to see it as being a lot like light.
And what's so wild is how much they seem to have in common. A thought feels like it happens in an instant, right? And light, well, that's literally the fastest thing in the universe. But the really important connection, the one this whole idea hinges on, is that they both share this bizarre property. They exist as both a wave and a particle. So let's break that down. The wave state, that's your desire. It's your goal before it becomes real. It's just pure potential, vibrating out there as a possibility, kind of like a radio station you haven't tuned into yet. It exists, but it hasn't taken a solid form. And then you have the particle state. That's the end result. It's the coffee in your hand, the deal you just closed, the book you finally finished writing. It's that moment when the wave of all those possibilities collapses into one single, concrete, real thing. So the million-dollar question is, how do you trigger that collapse? How do we turn the wave into the particle? And that brings us to the most actionable, most powerful part of this whole theory. And it actually borrows a pretty famous concept straight out of quantum physics, the observer effect. I mean, just think about that for a second. The theory is basically saying that a goal you keep locked up inside your own head is just like that unobserved quantum system. It's going to stay a wave of pure potential forever and ever, because there's nothing there to look at it, to observe it, and force it to become something real. So this is the trigger. This is the secret sauce. The theory proposes that the simple act of saying your goal out loud, of declaring it to the world, is what creates the observer. And it's that act of observation that starts the collapse, that turns the potential into the actual. So you can really look at the whole thing as a pretty straightforward three-step process. You start with that internal desire, that's the wave. Then you make that external declaration, that's the observation, and that allows you to move along the unblocked pathways until it finally becomes your new reality, the particle. So it's one thing to talk about a theory like this, right? But it's another thing to actually put it into practice. So let's see how the author of this theory is actually using this principle in their own life. They have publicly declared a very specific, and let's be honest, an incredibly audacious goal to manifest 500 million. Now that is creating an observer on a massive, massive scale. And this part is absolutely crucial. This isn't just some random number pulled out of thin air. It's a declared intention that has a very clear purpose behind it. By stating why they want to manifest this, they're creating a much stronger, more coherent signal for the universe to observe, and maybe, just maybe, find pathways toward. And so, this theory doesn't just give us an explanation. It really leaves us with a challenge. If the first step to collapsing potential into reality is observation,
and the first step to observation is declaration, well, that leaves us all with one final pretty provocative question, doesn't it? What reality will you declare?